Hi, everyone. Welcome to Half Wheel's first live show of Awards Week 2024. My name is Charlie Minato. I'm here at our office in Dallas, Texas, and this is the Packaging Top 10. So we've done these live streams for, I don't know, too long. We're getting very old. The site itself is getting quite old, but we do these live streams for the Packaging Top 10 today. Tomorrow we'll be back for the Half Wheel Top 25 Cigars of 2024. And then on Monday, I will be back by myself for the Consensus, which is a whole different animal. But we unveil them via these live shows on Facebook, YouTube, and at least for an hour on Instagram Live. There's an hour limit, at least as far as I know. Today's show won't take an hour, so all of it will be on Instagram Live. Though if you have questions and you want us to see your comments, we can only see them if you leave them via Instagram or Facebook. We won't be able to see them live via Instagram. But you're probably not here for the technical details of things. So it's not just me today. We've got our whole team here. And let me just make sure I still have the microphone. So at the bottom of the screen to my physical right is Brooks Whittington here in Dallas, Texas. Brooks, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
And what are you smoking?
I'm smoking a Sopra Mesa Brulee Blue.
There we go. There's the
Brulee
first
Blue.
pronunciation error
Blue.
of the live stream, and it was not a Spanish word. That was not what the bet that I had. Patrick
Brulee
Legree.
Blue.
No, you can stop now.
Okay, all right.
Patrick Legree, you are in Phoenix at our not satellite office. The Arizona Department of Revenue does not need to know that. But you're at your home office in Phoenix. How are you this, I guess, still morning for you, technically?
Yeah, doing all right. It's we're getting out of the really chilly stuff, so nice sunny day out here. Looking forward to seeing the top 10 here.
I mean, you've already seen it, but...
Well, you know.
Yeah, I mean... And we should do the live show
Look-
one year where we haven't seen
Looking
it.
forward
That
to
would
seeing
be
how
fun.
it goes, you know.
You know, there's that.
As are we
And are you smoking anything this morning?
I am. I actually found a Davidoff Golden Bands in a Ziploc bag on my sort of shelf of random cigars. So, decided to light that up. And
That's
Charlie,
good.
what are you smoking?
I am going to try to light this Pitoro XOVA Robusto something or other. I don't know. I was looking for something mild. And I've always really, really liked this Pitoro XO line. So
Nice. And I think just before we get too far into it, you said that we can't see comments if they leave them on Instagram, but I think you said Instagram twice. It's YouTube and Facebook we can see comments, right?
we can see comments from Facebook and YouTube.
There you go. Not Instagram.
Correct.
All
At
right,
least
there
not
we go.
live. On
Yeah.
the end that we are looking at, we cannot see them.
There you go. Just wanted to confirm.
All right, so I'm going to talk, and then I'll try to light this cigar up for a little bit longer. So this is the Packaging Top 10, and let's see if I can get that back on the screen. Nope, not that way. All right, so this is the Packaging Top 10. That's a blank screen. We've done the What Are We Smoking? Still the Packaging Top 10. And yeah, so it's exactly what it sounds like. Each year we recognize the 10 of what our staff votes on. So the three of us plus Brian Burt, who helps us out with these awards weeks, as well as the annual PCA convention and trade show coverage. We have a process. It has not changed for 2024. The three sort of basic takeaways are in order for something to be considered for this, it just needs to get nominated by one of the writers. And basically it's, did this thing impress you? And it's got to meet some qualifications. I would say the three most important ones are, number one, it needs to be a new packaging design, at least in a substantial way. So there's at least one thing on this list that is got some existing design elements, but has a lot of new elements. So, you know, otherwise we'd just be kind of repeating winners half the time here. Number two is that it needs to be sold for the first time in 2024. And there's at least one thing on this list that was shown off in 2023, but was not sold in 2024. And there have been years in which things have been shown off, but have not gone on sale, and therefore they don't make this list. And then I would say the third most important thing is that one of us needs to see the item in person. And that's because there are some items that look good when we get like press release photos, and then when we see them in person, they don't look as great. And there are even some items that look great, and then when you get close to them and you actually pick them up, feel quite cheap and flimsy, and so that can hurt. Once we have the nominations, and this year there were 20 of them, we are asked to rank them from 1 to 20, with 1 being the best, 20 being our least favorite. And we do this individually. The 4 writers don't know what each of the other 3 are ranking or how they rank these things until the end. And it's very simple. First place gets a 1 point, second place gets 2 points, et cetera, et cetera. It's like golf. The goal is to have the lowest score. And these are actually the scores of the first, 6 products. So you can see that first one, product A there, not going to make this year's packaging top 10. It was last on Brooks's list and 4th from the last on Patrick and I's list, and Brian Burt didn't have it all that much better. So after that, it's just a simple sort, and again, like golf, lowest score wins. These are the 10 lowest scoring items, which means they are the 10 best items or the 10 most impressive items according to the 4 of us. And to kick us off with number 10 is Patrick Reed.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, album covers have been known to be the canvases of some memorable works of art, and not only do they give a glimpse into the artist and their work, but they can be an interesting reflection of a certain era's design aesthetics, meaning that you can look at the design and have a pretty decent idea of the year it came out. Now, this year, a cigar that drew on album art kicks off the packaging awards, and it was one of the more unique projects I can recall in recent memory. Darren Shofi of Principal Cigars sent 5 well-known cigar makers, Jose Hochi Blanco, Eladio Diaz, Hendrik Henke Kellner, Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr., and Manuel Manolo Casada Jr., a copy of Nina Simone's 1965 album, I Put a Spell on You. He asked each one to create a cigar that they felt interpreted that album with as few restrictions on each person as possible, seemingly only that they had to be a 6x50 Toro. The result is the Principal Boy Band Volume 1. It's a pack of 5 cigars that leans heavily on a mid-1960s album cover theme, complete with photos of the 5 blenders when they were younger, which leans into that boy band name of the project. And for a first swing at this idea, which there are some rumors or maybe follow-ups, I really did think it was a hit, and not to borrow a musical pun. It's not overly serious, just a fun touch to an interesting project that certainly was ambitious, and when it came out, I think delivered on the premise of what was trying to be done. Charlie, what were your thoughts on Principal's Boy Band?
Yeah, so shout out to the folks at Delay and also the LCDH and Sauerbrücken. I saw this at Intertobacco 2024 when it debuted, and the way that I saw it was that I asked them, I said, hey, is there anything that's impressed you at the trade fair here in Dortmund? And they said, have you seen Boy Band? And I said, I do not know what you're talking about. And they were like, it's at the Principal stand. And I was like, great. And they were like, let's go walk over and we'll show it to you. And sure enough, like the packaging is outstanding. Obviously, tons of retro feels. I love that there are pictures from the actual cigar makers included. We had that shot a second ago of the back of the box where you see Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr. playing the drums. And it's a great theme. It's a weird thing. Like a lot of cigar makers are musicians or have been musicians in their past. And so if you want to keep this theme going, I'm sure that Darren can find 5 more. I mean, I can probably name 5 right off the top of my head here. People who could blend cigars for a project like this. And I've not smoked the cigars yet. We have some here. They'll at least 1 or 2 of them will get reviewed. And they'll be curious to see kind of what the... as we like to say internally from the 4 Kicks idea, where John Huber and Mike Condor said they went to Ernesto Perez Carrillo and said, hey, we want you to make a cigar that tastes like, or sorry, not 4 Kicks, Headley Grange was the idea. Why don't you make a cigar that tastes like the drum line of this or the bass line of this, and it'll be curious to see what is Henke's interpretation of Nina Simone's album in cigar form. So certainly an interesting one, and not too expensive in the grand scheme of things either. One of these weird things with these new transition things we're doing is that we have to keep these cigars lit, which is going to be difficult. But at number 9 is not the most affordable thing on the list. It is the Arturo Fuente OpusX, or Fuente OpusX Edición de la Sociedad, which I'm going to butcher Sociedad a lot. So let's hope that's the right pronunciation of this word. So this is from Manny Ariarte Enterprises, and I'm going to let Brooks come in and talk about the box and the packaging in a second in greater detail. And so instead, what I'm going to focus on is kind of how we got here. So Manny Ariarte has been in the cigar business, I think, for like 2 decades now. And back when he was getting started, we worked with a lot of different brands, but over the last 10 or so years, it seems like he's really focused on working with Arturo Fuente. He is a designer, he's also a photographer, and he's primarily known as a designer. And a few years ago, he and David Levy and some other partners launched Manny Ariarte Enterprises, which I would say, kind of does 4 at least public-facing consumer purchasable things. The first of which is they have some accessories that they sell that are not Fuente branded. The second thing is that they have some Fuente branded accessories that they sell that are not LE Blue products. So that would be lighters, cutters. They even have non-LE Blue humidors, cigar cases. They have like the carbon fiber cases, all under, or mostly under the OpusX Society label. Third thing is they have some LE Blue branded Fuente accessories. And so those include humidors, lighters, cutters, etc. And the fourth thing is now this, which is the first cigar. And so this was shown off in 2023. It did not start shipping until later in 2024. And it is very interesting to me because Manny has been credited with a number of designs from Arturo Fuente. I think most notably the OpusX 20-year box, so that would be the blue and white box. And he's also worked extensively with them on their partnership with Hublot, the watchmaker. But this is interesting to me because it's a Fuente product that Manny designed, and presumably this time Manny is the client as opposed to Fuente being the client. And even to my untrained eye, there are very clear design differences and design philosophy differences. I find this to be much softer than the typical OpusX packaging, which tends to have a lot of like sharp contrast. You think of the colors that they use for OpusX packaging, it's red and black, it's blue and white, it's green and white. I guess it's green, white, and red in some cases. It's yellow and red, but they're very rich, bold colors. This is softer, except maybe for the band where you can really see some of those sharp colors. I know, Brooks, your description of this was pastel colors, and you obviously spent a lot of time photographing this box because there's a lot of details, and maybe you can go over some of them for our readers.
It is a very impressive piece. And like you said, the color scheme is very, very different. I found this to be a very tropical feel to this box. Very... feels like you're on the beach. Feels like you're smoking with beach wind coming in. And I love the bands, which are very, very different color than most of the OpusX bands, just matching all of the boxes, the box and everything. But more importantly, I actually love these vellum cigar wraps that around the cigar. It does cover up the wrapper, which is kind of annoying, but they are very high quality, and they look great on the cigars themselves. The box is wonderful, extremely well made, as you would expect, very heavy, and it even has a really great detail on the side, on the corners, as you can see here on both of those trays. It's a metal, I don't even know what to call it, metal corner, I guess, and
it's called a coin. It's called a coin.
A coin. Oh yeah, you're funny. It looks great. It looks great. It gives that really high end feel to it. It's a very, very nice package, and I really, really appreciate the difference between this and a more standard OpusX box.
Yeah, and one other note, Brooks, before we move on. This caught my eye when you were photographing it. So Fuente has had a long-standing partnership with Boveda, and for the longest time, they were the only company that had custom-branded Boveda packs, though there are now, Zycar obviously has their own packs, and there are other brands as well. But this had a special version of the special Fuente version of a Boveda pack for the OpusX Society branding. And hopefully Mark Zuckerberg doesn't censor us for that nipple on the screen.
All right, coming in at number 8 is the Punch Dad's Home Movies. And this is really, really cool. And when I saw it, I knew from the second that I saw it that it was going to be a contender on this year's list. This is a box that replicates the look of a double pack of VHS tapes, which if you don't know what those are, just go Google it, I guess. But the packaging itself is extremely impressive and very, very extremely reminiscent of a VHS tape, double VHS tape. I grew up with them. My father used to tape, TV shows on these VHS tapes, so we had plenty of them around. And I love the fact that this covering that the box is inside of has the notch on the bottom to pull them out. You pull that box out and open it up, and you have the 10 cigars inside. They nailed the look of it completely. The box is not quite the same size as a double pack of VHS tapes. I measured it, but it's very, very close, and it looks impressive. And I am blown away by how. I mean, I saw this and I thought it was, holy crap, that's a VHS tape. It's very, very cool.
Well, it's a cigar. Yeah, so this is I think, amongst the most affordable things that'll be on this list. General Cigar Company has done a great job with the Punch brand and sort of keeping that affordability, but making really creative packaging. Last year, we recognized sort of the predecessor to this cigar, which was the Punch Dad Bod, as Brooks was trying to get out there. And these were cigars that came packed in what appeared to be a 4-pack of beer, but instead were not beer. They were, again, cigars. Yeah, so this is the second of this unofficial Punch Father's Day series. My understanding is the third one, we're going hot dog themed, but we'll see. They've not announced anything officially yet, but I've been told hot dogs. Another great design there, and another sort of, nice whimsical playing off the Mr. Punch theme, Father's Day, all those stereotypes. Not as whimsical is our number 7 entry, and that is the Plasencia Alma del Fuego Ometepe Edición Limitada. Actually, I think it's just Ometepe Limit. No, it's Edición Limitada. So this is a $100 cigar. And one of the things that happens when you make a $100 cigar is that you can have very, very nice packaging. And it shows here. So it comes in these boxes that are designed to look like humidors. They are very red, and they're pretty large. It's got the Plasencia branding that we've seen on any number of releases. I think Plasencia does a great job with this very modern and classic, I assume it'll be timeless branding that they've got. It's very clean, simple, etc. Ometepe, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is an island in Lake Nicaragua, which is located just outside the capital of Managua. And it is formed because of two active volcanoes. And Lake Nicaragua is a huge lake, and so there's this pretty decent sized island. It's not like one of the Hawaiian islands, but it's a decent sized island in the middle of the lake. There are plenty of other smaller islands, a lot of them sort of overrun by monkeys. Ometepe has a tobacco farm. I believe Plasencia is the one that grows the tobacco there, but maybe it's somebody else. And Plasencia says this is the first time that any cigar has used Ometepe wrappers, and that is the reason for the name. Alma de Fuego is an existing line. This is a slightly modified version of that blend. The packaging is great. I will admit, when it showed up, I was like, this looks like a box that was probably sort of an off-the-shelf design. Like, it was designed and then somebody waited for a project to use it for. I don't know that to be the case, but it does kind of look like it could have been used for something else. Most notably, that thing in the middle, the brighter red thing, that is a piece of leather. And it's great. It's a thick piece of leather. It replaces, a lot of times you see in cigar boxes, there'll be a piece of paper that explains the release. This is what that is. So on the back of it, it explains what Ometepe is and why they chose the name and the wrapper and all those sorts of things. It does kind of look like something else was supposed to go there, maybe a lighter cutter or even a rocks glass or something. And so it kind of just ends up being empty space, weirdly. But the box is nothing to do with, I think, really why this is on the list. It's instead how the cigars are individually packaged. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick Agreed.
Yeah, I think I find it interesting when someone takes an existing and seemingly perfectly fine and usable product, such as a cigar tube, and then is tasked with taking it up a few notches, which is what happens here. Everything gets enhanced. The glass is thicker. It takes on the box pressed shape of the cigar inside, which I don't know if it's ever been done before. I know it kind of caught me by surprise. I think, Charlie, you mentioned the same thing. The cap on the tube is huge. It comes in 2 pieces that are held together with magnets. There's sort of a gasket-like stopper, and then it gets finished off with the company's logo on the base. And, even though holding on to an empty tube isn't something I usually do, it's packaging that's so good, it almost forces me to find space for it on a shelf. It's really just kind of, advanced tube making brought to life. Just a really impressive piece in that regard. And with that, we move on to number 6, the Espinosa 601 La Bamba Warhead 10. Now, since its debut, Espinosa has used fairly simple boxes for its 601 La Bamba releases, but in 2024, that changed. While the company has used a similar design over the years for its bands, which draw on a World War II era bomb, now that design becomes the box, and all I can say is I think it works so well. Yes, it takes up more space than it probably should, but for the 10th release, sometimes you have to take up some space, especially with a limited edition that, from what I understand, sells pretty well. And given the fan base and their challenge coins seem to create some demand, I'd be really interested to see if this could return sooner than later in more colors. But for now, I'm just really happy enjoying this release. From the moment I saw it, I knew it was going to be something that would likely end up on the walls and shelves of cigar lounges and smoking rooms all over. Brooks, I think you kind of had a similar feeling on that one.
Yeah, so when I was photographing this, and this is a very, very large box. As somebody mentioned just a second ago, it's probably a pain in the butt to ship. It was shockingly large when I saw it because I wasn't expecting with these cigars to fit into this very large box. I just thought it'd be a little bit smaller. But one of the cool things about this is the fact that they do have they made specifically holes cut out in the back in order for you to be able to hang it on a wall or somewhere where you want to hang it. And I thought that was a really nice touch. But it goes beyond that because it's a very authentic, look to this entire bomb thing, the World War II bomb. In fact, if you look on the right over there where that guy seems to be looking, the logo seems to be looking over a wall there, that's actually an authentic logo called Kilroy was here, which was it refers to a drawing that World War II soldiers in American World War II soldiers used to, show where they were, where they had been, and what battles they'd fought in, and that kind of thing. And it's a great, authentic touch that I absolutely loved. And it's a wonderful box, and we should probably hang it up here in the office too. All right, moving on. We have a number 5, which is La Union. Now, La Union is a little bit more of a confusing release. In the end, there's going to be 2 different humidors, and there will be 4 blends between those 2 humidors. The first humidor is a black humidor. It has a blended by Pete Johnson of Tatuaje, and another blended by Jaime Garcia of my father. And the next humidor, which is coming sometime, perhaps this year, will be a red humidor, and it will have 2 more blends in it. Now, this was a release that was specifically created to commemorate the fact that Tatuaje and my father have been joined at the hip, really, for about 20 years. In fact, my father factory in Nicaragua produces all of Tatuaje's current production cigars. Now,
that is incorrect.
Huh?
That is incorrect.
I think that's what you told me yesterday. Produces all of the current Tatuaje cigars.
My father does, but in fairness, they do make some cigars at the headquarters in Doral in Miami.
Ah,
the brown label.
I stand corrected. The company does. My bad. All right. So the company actually does. So what Charlie said. You throw me off. This is a very large box, which is not exactly unusual for a situation like this. But it's very well presented. It's more of a sleek, understated kind of box. But it does also come with a custom branded XI1 Zycar Perfect Cut cutter. That is a very nice addition to that. And if you open up the box and open up a little section there, it actually has a section for humidification that you can throw into the box itself and use it as a humidor. We have not tested that, but certainly Bovedas in there would probably do very, very well. I love the look of it. I love, the entire presentation is nice, and I'm looking forward to the red one coming out hopefully later this year. Patrick, what did you think of the box?
Yeah, I remember when I first saw it, when you see it from sort of across the room or across the trade show booth, as it may have been, it's certainly this big, bold, glossy, shiny, black, humidor-looking presentation. But then as you get closer and you get into the details, that's where I really think it starts to stand out. The first part that caught my attention was the logo of the 3 hands on the lid, and that gets used throughout the project. Then you get into some of the detailing on the bands, the use of both the Spanish and English versions of the word "for" when indicating who made each cigar. So the My Father is part of Tatuaje. The Tatuaje made version is for My Father. Then there are, even more little details like the initials ERH and 2 dates on the right side of one of the bands. ERH is an acronym for El Rey de los Habanos, the Garcia family's factory that was on Miami's Calle Ocho, and that's the factory where Tatuaje got its start. There's a first date on there of May 20th, 2003, which is a reference to when the factory was incorporated. And then the second date, October 22nd, 2003, is accompanied by another number, 29, which Pete Johnson told me related to a particular invoice related to his products. That's all he said about it. The inside of the bands have 2003 on the top, 2023 on the bottom to mark what at the time was sort of a 20th anniversary release. Just a really neat presentation, both, big details and smaller, finer details. So intrigued to see when the red version comes out. Pete tells me they have it. The cigars are done, but they are not in a rush to get it out to the market just yet. So maybe this year, but we shall see. And with that, we move on to number 4, which is the Espinosa Las Seis Provincias ORT. When it comes to annual traditions, it feels like me putting the year's Las Seis Provincias release on the nominations list has certainly become one. And it's for good reason. It's crystal clear that Espinosa puts a real effort into the design of the line's packaging. And that starts with enlisting the help of Cuban-born artist Eden Gutierrez, and then drawing on any number of influences for the box designs. This is ORT, named for Oriente, the easternmost of Cuba's original 6 provinces. And for what is its 6th and possibly final release, the company hasn't confirmed what happens to the series now that all 6 of Cuba's original provinces have gotten a release. The company created an interesting design that uses a hinged top on the box and stands the cigars up instead of laying them flat. Now, it's the kind of presentation that takes up more space than it probably should in a retail store. It doesn't really work for most people's humidors since you have to take the cigars out. And I don't even know if the box can serve a real practical purpose once you've gone through the cigars or moved them out. But here's the thing. Like, I still love the art, how the lid stands up, commands vertical space in a retail environment. And I'd love to see this continue because I want to see what else the company and Gutierrez can come up with. But again, much like I said with the La Bamba, if this is it, I am more than pleased with this line's offerings. Charlie?
Yeah, so this is great. The overall like presence that it has once the cigars are put inside is I think sort of unmatched on this list. It should be noted that the cigars do come in their own box, basically in a bundle in a very simple cardboard box. That is the right move. One of the things that we have learned over the years, photographing and reviewing cigars that come in interesting boxes and jars and things like that, is that you typically don't want to ship them in those boxes because they will get damaged. And so smart move here by Espinosa for putting that in the cardboard box. And as a couple of people have noted already, I think Griffin most notably, we are playing the hits by putting Las Seis Provincias on here. It's well-deserved. This is the full 6-part series, assuming that we stop at 6, and they have done extremely well. All but one of them has made the packaging awards list. You can see how they finished over the years. And, when this got announced, it probably got added to the packaging nominations, and when it showed up at the office, it was pretty clear it was going to make this list. Not surprised to see it here. And the overall body of work here is super impressive. I would say this is one of 3 series that might make the sort of like the comment that Griffin's alluding to of like the greatest hits here. The other one that's not featured this year, General Cigar Company's Cohiba Spectre release, which is their sort of flagship Halo product. Cohiba has either finished first or second, or maybe first each time that they've had a release, but there was not anyone for 2024. And the other one is actually at number 3, and that is Davidoff's Zodiac series. And so I'm going to take Patrick off of the screen and talk about the Year of the Snake, or at least one of the Year of the Snakes. This is where that eligibility requirement that we must see the packaging in person comes into play, because there are 2 other versions of this, including one that comes in an elaborate humidor, but neither or none of us on the staff have seen those. And so therefore we're going to stick with the regular production one, the most available one. And it's super impressive. This is the cardboard box. I don't know if you should be able to see the detail on the screen, but it's got like snake skin printed onto the cardboard box. And again, that's the protective box that these things come in. The Zodiac series started more than a dozen years ago. Davidoff's actually completed the full Zodiac series. I guess they technically completed it a little while ago, but this is the first time they're doing sort of the full international release over again. The Year of the Snake came out in 2013 the first time around, and so this is Year of the Snake Part 2. Is very, very impressive box, and I think what's most impressive to me about this series and Las Seis Provincias and the Cohiba Spectre is that Davidoff has, like they've done a bunch of these. This is, I guess, the 14th one if you really want to get technical, but 13th in terms of like the full red and gold series. And they haven't seemingly run out of ideas yet, which is super impressive. It has done very, very well on this awards list. One thing that I noticed when the press release showed up was that Davidoff was touting some sort of sustainability efforts. Like, that's going to become more of a thing, obviously, because it's part of corporate America now. I as much as I'm like for sustainability, as I would encourage you to reuse this packaging, as has been alluded to elsewhere, I don't really think cigar packaging is all that sustainable. Like, it would be better to ship this in a cardboard box, but it wouldn't have been as interesting. And Brooks, do you want to talk about some of the interesting aspects that are going on here?
Yeah, what I loved about this when I was photographing it and I opened it up, what I loved about this just right off the bat was the juxtaposition between how thick this wood cover is of the box and how delicate the frame is that goes around it. So you open up the box and you have a frame, a wooden frame that is surrounding the cigars and protecting the caps and the feet of the cigars. And that frame is very detailed. It's got a really great detail of a dragon gold on a red background. And you lift that off, and that's where the cigar, you can see the cigars there underneath. And it's a very, as I said, it's a very delicate frame, and it's not something I expected something a little heavier. I love the detail in this. I love the color scheme, which of course is runs through all of the Davidoff Zodiac series, the red and gold, which are very lucky, considered to be very lucky colors in China and Chinese culture. And I just it's a very wonderful box. Now this thing here, you can see, it actually comes with a what the Davidoff calls a coin. It's a plate, it's a metal plate that you can actually remove. It actually is removable and attaches to that via magnets. And just a really great looking box that you can reuse pretty easily. And I think it's a wonderful addition. All right, moving on to number 2 is the Legends from the Fuente Padrón and Padrón Legends box. Now, this is probably the most hyped cigar release in the last 10 years, perhaps ever. And it is definitely a sight to behold when you see it. The first thing I thought was, man, it's just holy crap! It's huge, and it's very, very detailed in terms of how you can when you open it up. It's really, really wonderful. It's very large. Now, Charlie's going to talk about. Didn't we decide you were going to say?
We did, but we sort of said you were going to do like a 30-second intro. I think we might have gone over that.
Seconds? All right. Sorry.
All right. So I'm going to explain the history, and then we'll get back to Brooks talking about the box. So Fuente Padrón Legends, for those that are unfamiliar, is a collaborative project between Arturo Fuente and Padrón, obviously two of the most prominent names in the non-Cuban cigar industry. The origins of the product date back to 2020. There was a Cigar Rights of America meeting at the Padrón office in Miami. And after the meeting was finished, Carlito Fuente, who's the current head of Arturo Fuente, and Jorge Padrón, the current head of Padrón, sat down. They drank scotch. And what they actually drank was their father's favorite scotches. So Carlito drank his father's favorite scotch, and Jorge drank his father's favorite scotch. Both of their fathers had recently passed away within the last 4 or 5 years. And the other notable thing is that both of their fathers are the men who built their two companies. Now, in the case of Padrón, Jose Orlando Padrón, that would be Jorge's father, is the one that founded the company in 1964. And in the case of Arturo Fuente, Carlos Fuente Sr. is the person who, along with Carlito, really made Arturo Fuente into the company that it is today, though it was founded by Arturo Fuente himself. And they had both passed away, and the two companies decided that they were going to work together, or the two families were going to work together for this project to honor their fathers, to raise money for their respective charities, and Legends is what was born of that. So it's two 7x50 Churchills. The cigar on the left is the Arturo Fuente made one, and its official name, if I can remember this off the top of my head, is the Fuente y Padrón Legends. Carlos Fuente Jr. for Jose Orlando Padrón. And the cigar on the right is the Padrón version, which is Fuente y Padrón Legends. And that would be Jorge Padrón for Carlos Fuente. I believe Carlos A. Fuente. But they are two different cigars. They come in the same box that retails for a little over $7,000. Just based on our traffic numbers, this is something that a lot of our readers are very interested in. And the box itself is giant. And more on that from Brooks.
Yeah, it's huge. It is. It actually measures officially 29 inches long, 15.5 inches wide, and 4.5 inches tall. It is very, very large. And what I loved about this, when I opened it up and I saw, all of the details that they have, it's everything is split specifically down the middle. Almost everything, where you have all of these photographs from Fuente on the left and Padrón on the right, the cigars from Fuente on the left, but Padrón on the right, and everything is really meant to show off that these are two of these two of these families together that are releasing this one project. And it's wonderful. It's very large, very heavy, and I love the overall look of it, especially with the detail on the top of the lid, and inside is wonderful. I'm really blown away by it. It is as you said, each cigar is about $178, give or take, and the price of the humidor $7,115. It is wonderful, and I'm surprised that it didn't make number one, but it absolutely comes in at number two because it deserves it.
Did you even vote for it as number one?
You
were
I
the
don't
one?
remember. That
I
doesn't,
think
that doesn't mean I'm not surprised.
I think there was one dissenter that had this as their top.
I believe I put it as number one. Yes.
So we could keep talking about this because there's a lot of elements. You saw like the leather folio and the coin. If I'm going to focus on anything that we haven't covered that I feel like is important, there are kind of two logos for this release. The one is the tree that you can see here with the roots coming below the tree. I guess this may not be the best way to describe it, but it's also on the top of the lid as well. And then the other is the actual logo on the top of the cigar bands. And I'm now reminded I was supposed to put another picture here. But on the top of the cigar bands, there is the combination of the Fuente 13 clock that you've seen on Forbidden X 13 releases and some of their ashtrays and all sorts of other Fuente branded products. And then Padrón's famous little hammer. The story with that, for those that are unfamiliar, is that when Jose Padrón emigrated from Cuba to the United States, before he started Padrón, he was looking for work and he didn't want to take government assistance. He was talking to somebody in the neighborhood and they said, "Are you a carpenter?" And he said, "Yes." And they gave him a little hammer, and then he started working as a carpenter. And after a couple of years, he'd saved enough money to start his own cigar factory, and that became Padrón. So that is Fuente Padrón Legends, and that is the top spot or the second spot for this year. The top spot for 2024 on our packaging awards goes to the OpusX 25th La Familia X to the 25th power. Actually, it's OpusX La Familia X to the 25th power. I don't actually believe that that's the name. I mean, everyone's just going to call this the OpusX Perfecto, but that is apparently the official name. This has been released in the smallest of forms of anything on this list. The rumor is there were 25 boxes that were sent out, mostly to retailers, and some of them were sold, and some retailers are starting to sell them. It seems like in singles or in samplers. I've yet to see anyone list a full box. It is utterly impressive. This is the second time that the OpusX 25th has made this list, but the first time it came on the packaging awards was a few years ago, and that was for a cigar that came in one of two LE Blue humidors. At the time, only one of them had been released. This is a different Vitola and a Perfecto, and it also comes in a box that Fuente at least calls a humidor, and I guess I see it. It's a very large box. It weighs, when it's full, nearly 17 pounds. It is ridiculously heavy. It comes with 20 cigars, a medallion, and a key there. I don't know what the purpose of the key is yet, but Fuente has said that at some point later this year, it will announce what the purpose of the key is. Maybe it opens up the doors at the factory in Nicaragua that is also scheduled to open up this year. I'm going to, again, let Brooks talk about a lot of the details here, but I want to talk about the thing that really caught my eye when I took the box out for the first time and opened it up, and that is the lid, or specifically the Vista. So most of the time when you open up a box of cigars and you look in the inside of the lid, which is referred to as the Vista, you will see a symmetrical design. If there is any attempt for a cigar manufacturer to use a centered design, they're going to do that. And in this case, it was off-centered, and there's so many detail elements in the lid, but I really appreciated sort of the approach to not just doing the same thing over and over again here, and not just do the same thing over and over again here. Really, sort of like this Plasencia, applies to how the cigars individually come more so than it does the box itself. And for that, I will turn it over to Brooks.
Yeah, so one of the coolest things about this box, besides obviously the overall look, is these coffins that the cigars come in. Now, unlike normal coffins, these actually are made of metal, and unlike the vast majority of coffins that I've opened in my life, these actually open from the top. And so what you do is you open it you grab it from the bottom, you grab the lid from the bottom, and lift it up. And what it does is there's a piece of metal. It's a small piece of metal that is attached to it in a shape kind of like a J, and it's a hook that basically lifts the top of the cigar, the cap of the cigar, up as you open up this coffin. And what it does is it allows the presentation, the top of that cigar with the band and everything, to be shown in a very cool presentation. It's a very cool look. It's very different. I've never seen anything like it. Charlie, I don't think he has either. And it's very, very well made and works perfectly. Every time you open it up, it just comes right up. Now, you know, the details of this box are astounding. If you look through everything, and we're not going to go through all of them because it would take too much time. But one of the cool things I wanted to mention was the fact that if you look at the coffins side by side inside the box, you'll see that the design of the two coffins together actually form an X on either side, and then the ones in the bottom, obviously, there's just two next to each other that do that. And it's one of those details that it really sets this thing apart from the rest of the people on rest of the products on the list. It's wonderful, huge, heavy, and I'm glad I got to see it. It's great.
So there it is. There is the complete list of our top 10 in packaging for 2024. As you can see, it draws from numerous price points, numerous companies, some lines that have made multiple appearances, some first-timers, and there's also some collaborations between companies on this year's list. Now, it can't be overlooked that a number of cigars on this list are quite expensive, and some of those eye-popping MSRPs goes to pay for that packaging. Now, in looking over, I think it shows that we all bring our own preferences to the process, and it's always been something I've been intrigued by. So as we look over the list, I'm kind of curious to hear, Charlie and Brooks, what the two of you would say drives your nominating and voting decisions. Brooks, why don't you kick that off?
Well, as an artist, I've been an artist for a very long time, basically my entire life. After I, got out of high school, and for me, design is a really important thing for me. When I look at a box of cigars or a whatever the cigars come in, I'm looking for something that speaks to me in terms of a design aesthetic. And I don't really care all that much about how obvious it is that it won't work as a humidor or something of that nature. I really want it to look from a design perspective as something different, something unusual, something original. And that's really what I look for in these kind of situations.
Charlie, how about you?
Yeah, I think I probably value the innovation in cigar packaging a little bit more than maybe some of the other people on our team. I see, I don't know, probably like 500 new cigar boxes a year, and for the most part, they're all kind of the same thing. They're like rectangular boxes. They hold 10 cigars, 20 cigars, 25 cigars. Sometimes they hold 50. Shout out to Half Wheel. But for the most part, they're pretty boring. They have interesting designs, but the actual box itself is what it is. And so when I think of something like the Plasencia, or obviously the OpusX 25th or whatever we're calling it, the innovation with the coffins and the tubes there and having a new approach to that, it really, really stands out to me. We've been doing this long enough, Patrick. I sort of know what your baseline test is, but do you want to explain that to the viewers?
Yeah, so, the thing that really tends to put a piece of packaging into the top of my list is if it's something I would want to put on a shelf that, once the cigars have been smoked or they've been taken out, is this something I want to get up and look at every day? And does it inspire me? Does it, provide some sort of interesting glimpse into a manufacturer or a place or something? And, it comes from one of my uncles taught me about art, which is there's a lot of great art in the world, but there's not as much stuff that you want to wake up and look at every day. And so that's kind of where that comes from in my regard. I certainly value innovation and celebration and, pushing things in different directions. But at the end of the day, if it's not something that I actually want to dedicate some shelf space to and some attention to every day, it does, that kind of holds stuff back. But not to shift gears though, Charlie, but two things that stood out as I'm looking at the list once again. The vast majority of the releases on the list are limited editions, which makes some sense given that those kind of releases do get extra attention and warrant extra attention. And this certainly isn't a new trend. I was looking back at every year since 2020, at least 8 releases on all of our awards list were limited editions. And some years it's been all 10, which sort of got me thinking, what would it be like if we did a version of this list that was limited to only regular production releases?
Well, I think that it would have a lot more of those, what I sort of refer to as boring rectangular boxes on them. I think that we would have to highlight a lot more about the design of like the artwork, the color palette, the type fonts, those sorts of things would play a much larger role. Because there's some practicality that you can ignore if you're releasing a limited edition cigar. I mean, the Fuente, there's going to be more from what I understand, but there are not many boxes of those. The Padrón Legends doesn't even fit in our any of our cabinet humidors here. Like, it's completely impractical, and it's not even close to like top 5 most impractical things we've put on this list over the years. So, run down the list. Like, most of these things, aren't going to be something that the average consumer that's maybe got like a Coolador or Wineador at home, can fit in their typical humidor. And so I think you would see a lot more practical things, and probably a lot lower price points. But it would still be pretty, and maybe at some point down the road we try to recognize maybe like a top 3 regular production. I don't know. We really go out of our way to focus on the ones that we really want to celebrate as the best of the best, regardless of price, regardless of how many were made, regardless of how much of a pain in the ass they are to store at our humidors and our offices. And the list is the list, and I feel really good about it. We were looking back at some of the previous ones from previous years, and I think this list is about as strong as any for the past 5 years. Speaking of lists, if you came here and you were hoping for a different list, you're probably looking for the list for tomorrow. So that is the top 25 cigars of the year from halfwheel.com. We'll be back same time, places, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Hopefully we'll get the Instagram show started on time as opposed to today. And we'll be back tomorrow. Exact same places, same 3 people. Maybe Brian Bird will show up, get the invite for the video. And if that's not the list you're looking for, perhaps you're looking for the consensus, and that will be hopefully still on the screen. That will be Monday. It will just be me, and that'll be a different show. So the consensus is a completely different list. I'm not going to waste more time talking about it today, but it's a different list, different show. I will unveil the consensus within like the first 15 minutes, 25-1, and then we'll take questions. So if you have questions about this list, about tomorrow's list, about the consensus, do that. And also tune in tomorrow because we'll have details about a contest that I'm sure some of you will be very interested in. So for Brooks Whittington, for Patrick Reed, Brian Burt, my name is Charlie Minato. We will see you back here tomorrow.